Hey, what is up guys? Jed here with a look at the Imac G4. The Imac G4 has often been hailed as one of Apple's all-time greatest industrial design achievements. From what was at the time an ultra-thin LCD display, its fully circular base and logic board, and the dazzling chrome stand that connects the two. Now, this generation was on sale between 2002 and 2004, and I have here one of the first of those from 2002. It is the lowest end iMac that was available at the time, with only a 15-inch TFT display with the crisp 1024 by 768 resolution. It packed a 32-bit 800MHz PowerPC G4 processor and 256MB of RAM, although this could have very easily been upgraded to 1GB via the user-accessible panel at the base, along with space for an AirPod Extreme Wi-Fi card, which has also been removed in this model. It also came shipped with a 60GB hard drive that came pre-installed with OS 10.1.2. Although the specs may not be impressive by today's standard, the design definitely is, and has earned a number of nicknames over the years, some calling it the Sunflower or the Lampshade. However, at the time it was simply known as the new iMac. Now, I've never actually seen one of these in the flesh before, until I managed to swipe one off TradeMe, New Zealand's equivalent of eBay, for $35, or around about $25 US. Now, this one was in okay condition with a few marks around the plastic screen bezels, no keyboard or mouse, but I did manage to hook up an Apple numeric keyboard and Magic Mouse and they worked just fine. The only other downside was the 2x optical superdrive that is not mounting. No matter what I try, at the end of the day it is simply not recognized by the computer and won't even eject. But despite that, the hardware itself is still very impressive to look at. In terms of features, on the screen it only has a small microphone on the lower left, an invisible LED status light on the bottom right, but what of course stands out the most is the chrome swivel arm that attaches to the display and the rest of the computer. It is surprisingly sturdy, and you're able to carry around the entire computer just by the arm without feeling like it'll break on you. And also, the entire arms can swivel 180 degrees. Truly a testament to Apple's premium industrial design. Moving on to the rest of the computer, the plastic has held up fairly well over the years. It is certainly not the crisp white that it once was, with some staining and yellowing over the years, but still has the premium look matte finish that is not only nice to look at, but the touch is also satisfying. At the rear we have a surprising amount of I/O, but showing the age of this iMac. Starting from the left we have a Kensington lock for securing the computer, since many of these were also used in schools. The primitive technology of a headphone jack, the dedicated connector for the included Harman Kardon satellite speakers, 2 FireWire 200 ports, an Ethernet that does work by today's standards, followed by a 56K modem for connecting to good old dial-up internet, 3 USB 2.0 ports, and a very rare mini VGA that was only capable of mirroring the display. No dual displays around here. Now, unfortunately, I do not have the Harman Kardon speakers that were included with this iMac, however, it still does have an internal speaker, however, the sound is less than clear. Let's take a listen to the startup chime and some music. Due to being unable to access the optical drive, I've been unable to upgrade the operating system any higher than the 10.2 it's currently running, without looking into an external superdrive. It also makes installing any other applications extremely difficult, although I have been able to share files between my other Imac G5 and this via target disk mode. In order to install applications, I have to download the disk image files onto a USB drive, then transfer them across in order to install them on this machine. Now, some of you may ask, why don't I just download the applications straight from the browser onto the iMac? And this brings me on to the applications that are installed on it, and their performance. In the dock we have Finder, Mail, AOL Messenger, Address Book, Internet Explorer, Firefox, iTunes, iMovie, iPhoto, Sherlock, QuickTime Player, and System Preferences, as well as a few other applications that come pre-installed. Now, I was surprised to see Internet Explorer on this iMac, given that Safari was not a feature of 10.2. Now, in terms of the actual application performance, there's really only one word: slow. Let's start off with iPhoto. Now, this one will simply fail to load. I do have a photos library on the hard drive, but it seems like all the files in it are just too big, and it fails to launch. Next, let's take a look at System Preferences. All of this is pretty standard, and continues to this day. However, there certainly isn't any iCloud included. Next, let's take a look at Internet Explorer. Now, this Mac will still connect to the internet, however, it's currently not. with a very unfamiliar browsing experience at first glance. However, some things do still hold true. We still have the top sights along the bar at the top, as well as backwards and forwards arrow in the top left. Let's also take a look at Firefox for comparison. Although slow to load up, this still does bear many resemblances to the current version. Next, let's check out iTunes. Now, iTunes has evolved greatly over the years, with a player that looks very different to the one we see here. The main difference being the lack of an iTunes store, only downloaded music available for us. Next, let's take a look at Imovie. I'm sure many modern day video editors recognize this version of Imovie as a starting point to where they began. Sherlock fails to load because it's not connected to the internet. QuickTime Player does eventually load, but it will fail to play anything back higher than 480p video. This is one of the very first versions of iChat. It uses AOL Instant Messenger, which is now obsolete, as iMessage was still years away at this point. Address book has not changed much, although it is now contacts on the newer Macs, and so is Mail, although this won't connect to any modern day mail service. Finder still functions in the same way, however its layout has changed. Instead of the categories being on the sidebar, they're held at the top and center. One other interesting application is 10.2 does also include chess, even with voice control. Despite the applications being hard to use, one thing that is not difficult is repairing these old Macs, and also upgrading them. These were manufactured in the days where Apple engineered them to encourage consumers to upgrade the Mac specs themselves, as shown if we take a look behind the brushed aluminium base of this iMac. By unscrewing the 4 screws that conveniently do not fall out and stay attached to the base, we reveal space for an Airport Extreme card to add Wi-Fi, and a SODIMM slot for adding more RAM, which in this case has been removed. There is also another regular DIMM slot on the inside of this iMac, seated on the logic board, that a consumer with a little more experience can easily upgrade. Okay, so that's a look at 2002's finest, the Imac G4. I hope you liked this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a like down below, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Thanks for watching.